And can you please clarify your relationship with him? If any, and how does this allegation, which seeks to link you to this particular individual, attempt to undermine your commitment to fight rigorously against corruption, irrespective of who does it and whoever it happens? Ke a leboga.
Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Yes, this matter has occupied the headlines for quite a number of days now. My spokesperson, Mr. Vincent Magwenya, addressed the media yesterday in response to what they say was a video and a photograph. And he focused on that, and he explained what is my relationship or at all with this person. Now, 47 years ago, I got married to his father's sister, his aunt. We divorced 43 years ago. And when I said to Honorable Steenhuisen in 2022, when he asked whether I knew him, I said I did not know him because I had never encountered him, I had never seen him, and that was gospel true. Now, later in 2023, as I was walking in the street in my neighborhood, I walked past a house, as Mr. Magwenya said. I'm now promoting him to a minister. As Mr. Magwenya said yesterday, I was walking in a street where I usually walk, and even this morning, coming here, my convoy drives past that house. There are 2 entrances to where I live, or 3, and it is the thoroughfare, the way where we drive and where I also walk. So in 2023, I was walking, as Mr. Magwenya said, with one of my colleagues who was my then advisor, who is now a deputy minister, taking a walk in the morning. And I often say, when people say, we want to meet you, Mr. President, I said, no, come at 6 o'clock. Come and walk with me. And then you will have me for an hour and a half as we do our 10-kilometer walk or so. So I was walking with Mr. Sibia, and as we were walking past a house which I saw in construction for quite a while, and I kept asking, whose house is this? It is a massive house. And I wanted to know whose house it is, and I never got the information. So walking there, a car comes past, and I always mispronounce this person's name, Thibaut Touch or something like that. He gets out of the car with another gentleman. He wants to talk to me, to photograph, and all that. So we stop. And now we are against the wall of this massive house. And that's where the photograph happens and the video. So then the allegation is the person who was in the photograph is Maumela. It was not Maumela. It was Mr. Thibaut Touch and Mr. Jones from the United States, I later learned. So there was this brouhaha that, yes, I visit his home on a regular basis and so forth. I can say I walk past that house when I go on my walks. Now, in 2024, so it should be known, because Mr. Magwenya only focused on this photograph. In 2024, I am walking on that same street, and a person comes out of this house and he greets me. And as I often meet people, I ask them, who are you? He says, I am Hangwani Maumela. And that's how he introduces himself to me. And I say, so you are the Maumela who is putting my name into disrepute. And he smiles away. And now I've encountered this person and I walk away and I walk to my home. And then in 2024, on the 26th of December, I am walking with my daughter, who loves walking too, on the same street. And there this young man comes out and he says, "Hello, Ramaphosa. My mother is here. Can you say hello to her?" And I say, "Who is she?" He says, "It's Mboneni Maumela." Now, when I was at school in Papuli High School with my then wife, Hope Mudau, her brother was also there. And later I got to know that this Mboneni and this, my wife's brother, my former wife's brother, they hooked up. And as they hooked up, they had a child. And this is now Hangwani Maumela, whom I did not know. But I know his mother because we were at school together. So he says, "My mother is here. Can you say hello to her?" And she is coming out of the yard towards the main gate. And as she's wearing a gown, a morning gown. And I immediately say, I can't allow her to come into the street with a morning gown. And I go towards the gate and I greet her and I say, "How are you? How have you been?" That's the sum total of it all. And I walk away. Now, when I walk around, I'm often greeted by people. One time I was walking in the street in Parkhurst. And as I was walking, here comes a man with his two children. And he says, "Mr. President, can we take a photograph with you?" And I say, "No, that's fine." I pose, they take a picture. Little did I know that he is going to send a message on the street WhatsApp group, which said, "The president is walking in our street." So I continue walking. I see people coming out and greeting. But then the reason I mention this is that there is a woman who opens the gate, closed gate of her yard. She's got two children. She says, "Mr. President, can I take a picture of you and my children?" But she's wearing a morning gown. I don't want her to come into the street. So I move towards the gate, slightly inside the gate, so that she can take a picture. So this is what often happens to me. I'm going to write a book about my morning encounters with South Africans, because some of them are quite interesting and exciting. So this is how this Maumela fellow then gets into this whole drama, because his aunt, who is my former wife of 47 years ago, is his aunt. And he is really not my relative as such. So I have encountered him, and you can make what you like of it. Do I deal with him? No. Do I meet him and sit down with him? No. Do I visit him at his house? No. Am I appalled at the allegations that are being made against him? Yes, I am appalled. And as I walk past that house, I know that that house was built with the money, as it is alleged, that was not properly acquired. And it is money that should have been spent on the health of our people. So the SIU has taken action, and I applaud that. And that is why I say we are making progress. The Special Investigating Unit is reclaiming stolen money, and we must support them and applaud them for the work that they are doing. Thank you.
And that's how the dollars got to the couch.
Order, honorable members. Thank you for quite an elaborative response, Honorable President. I deliberately left you to take your time because you had to clarify this matter to the South Africans. And once again, thank you. We are now proceeding to Honorable Mampuru.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings, President. President, as the EFF, we are not surprised to learn that of the allegations about the Mr. Simelane, as we have consistently warned the people of South Africa about the ANC systematic project to hollow out our public institutions for self-enrichment. Just last year, President, Minister Simelane also faced serious criminal allegations for her involvement in the looting of VPS, dating as far back in 2016 when she was the mayor of Polokwane. In light of how your cabinet have been reduced to a cesspool of corruption, mismanagement as dysfunctionality, now, Mr. President, please tell us, why have you not removed Mr. Simelane or Minister Simelane from the executive after her said involvement in the looting of VPS? And why, Mr. President, do you insist on hiding behind the law when it suits you to protect one of your own from the consequences of their corrupt behavior? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. You may
Palapa.
respond, Honourable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I do believe that I answered that question earlier when I said that when allegations are made, we need to follow due process and we need to evaluate what is said to have happened. And I ask for reports and I evaluate those reports, and it is on the basis of that that I make my call. That is what I said earlier, and I'm repeating it again. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable President. We are now proceeding to the last follow-up question, which is asked by Honourable Farmer.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable President. Honourable President, rest assured, when the Patriotic Alliance is taking over Cape Town soon, we will see to it that the lives of our people are bettered. And the Western Cape, for that matter.
That's it, I'm leaving.
How does the President reconcile his administration's stated commitment to a new tone of ethical leadership by giving assurances to South Africans that no member of cabinet is above the law? Thank you, President.
Thank you, Honourable Farmer. Over to you, Honourable President.
Honorable Chairperson, I did say in my head reply that due process needs to be followed, and no member of the cabinet is above the law. And when credible evidence is tabled and presented, we will take action. And if persons are charged of corruption and serious crimes, action will be taken. And in fact, when they are charged, and due process of the law needs to take place, and they will be removed from their position in cabinet. And that is the approach that we have been taking. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable President. That then takes us to question number 9, which is asked by Honourable Dlamini with regards to the reviving of local industries. Over to you, Honourable President.
Honorable Chairperson, government continues its efforts to expand and also to deepen the domestic market as a driver of inclusive growth. Government has put measures to revive local industries through supporting domestic production, strengthening supply chains, and reducing reliance on imports. These measures include the implementation of the industrial master plans in key sectors such as in the automotive sector, in poultry, in furniture, in sugar, clothing and textiles, as well as steel. Our government is supporting the revival of manufacturing capabilities by using state procurement and by engaging with various procuring entities to support procurement of locally manufactured products as well as services. Now, according to local content declarations by organs of state, 11.7 billion worth of tenders with previously designated products for local content and production were awarded between July and September of this year. This government expenditure supports local manufacturers in value chains spanning from steel products, clothing and textiles and furniture, to items or products such as boats and working vessels, cables, electric transformers, as well as valves. Government has been assisting the clothing and textile industry through an incentive program that we put in place called the Clothing, Textile, Footwear and Leather Growth Program, which is part of the master plan that we put in place. This program provides a combination of a grant and a loan to support the competitiveness and sustainability of companies related to people, process products, market, and capital expenditure equipment. In the automotive sector, government is in the process of reviewing what we call the Automotive Production and Development Program. This aims to realign South Africa's automotive policy framework and also a rapidly evolving global environment driven by the transition to electric vehicles. The framework will be realigned while ensuring that we preserve our auto manufacturing capabilities as a country. And if there is an area where South Africa has distinguished itself greatly, it is in the automotive manufacturing industry, where a number of our workers even go and train workers in the original countries where these cars were made, like in Germany and Japan and places like that. So South Africa exports talent and skilled workers to go and train other workers in various locales in the world. Now, a central focus is on the fiscal and policy environment to determine whether these mechanisms adequately promote domestic vehicle demand, also localization, and also the green industrial investment. The review also examines opportunities for mineral beneficiation, recognizing South Africa's rich endowment of critical minerals, as well as their potential to support local battery assembly and broader electric vehicle value chain development. Our government also supports the agro-processing sector through a number of initiatives. These include incentive programs as well as support programs, and also include participants or players like the Land Bank and other financing schemes. Other initiatives also include the promotion of local sourcing by retailers. We are focused on boosting exports and also reliance on raw commodity exports. Our government's industrialization drive also seeks to strengthen our manufacturing sector. So we are enhancing our country's competitiveness in a number of areas of manufacturing, as well as the industrialization process. And as investments increase in our country, such as those that we were able to have announced in Brussels just a week ago, where the European Union agreed to invest almost 12 billion euros, which amounts to about 340 billion rand, into our country. And all this will be planted in factories, in capabilities, and in skills development in our country to enhance the competitiveness of our manufacturing and industrialization. So progress is being made and a lot is being done. And our government is focusing on that which will advance our country's economy. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. The first follow-up question will be asked by Honorable Dlamini. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Dumela Ntate Mookamedi. Honorable President, I want to use this opportunity to express my appreciation for your leadership in driving domestic sourcing. We have seen how much South Africa retailers are now starting to source more products domestically to reduce reliance on global supply chains and mitigate risk from currency fluctuations. However, Honorable President, some local firms and industries still argue that the government can do more to transport localization in the manufacturing and textile industry. Does government have institutional mechanisms to monitor compliance with legislative commitment to foster a greater focus on localization, particularly in public procurement and tenders? What progress are we making in ensuring that there is greater compliance with localization to drive growth and great employment opportunities for our people? Ke a leboha Mookamedi.
Thank you, Honorable Dlamini. Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you for the question, Honorable Dlamini. Yes, we are, through DTIC, working on mechanisms and frameworks of monitoring precisely how the localization process and program is unfolding. We need to do much more. And as I said earlier, from September or so, well, in the latter part of this year, we have already seen 11.7 billion rand of procurement through localization. We are a big economy and we need to see much more of localization and relying less and less on exports, on items that can be produced here. You're absolutely right that we are seeing more and more of local products being produced here. But government itself in its procurement process needs to do much more. And sometimes we don't do as much as we should, but we are focusing on enhancing that and improving that. And we are also encouraging the private sector to join in this process. And a number of companies are heeding this. There has been quite a lot of criticism by the usual economic critics and so forth, who dismiss this call for localization by ourselves. But we are seeing the effect, and what it does lead to is more job creation, factories being set up, entrepreneurs coming forward to make local products. And we've seen it with clothing items and with a number of other products. So we need to speed this process up. But as you correctly say, put in place mechanisms that will enable us to see line of sight on how this is being implemented. So we need to do more, but the process has already started. And in many, many ways, this is a wonderful process. Whilst we invite investors to come and invest in our country, yes, we want them to set up factories here to produce products that will be made of even raw materials that come from our country, and the local content must keep on rising. And even as we do procurement in government, we want to see local content beginning to tick up, and so that we are able to create more jobs, to create more capabilities, and to train more and more of our young people to be properly skilled. So we will focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. The next follow-up question is asked by Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Honorable President. Mr. President, the DA's trade policy explicitly rejects export taxes and supports an export-orientated industrial strategy that removes export duties. Yet, your cabinet is now considering a 25% export tax on raw chrome to compensate for government failures in energy and policing. While manufacturing remains weaker than before COVID, and we've seen plants like ArcelorMittal closing down. Now, the question is, which of these conflicting visions are you backing, a punitive tax regime or genuine reforms? And what immediate actions are you taking to align all government departments so that industry can compete rather than being taxed into extinction? Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Boshoff. Over to you, Honourable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think if one looks at how industrial policy manifests itself, you have to use a number of measures that are aimed at advancing economic development through an industrial policy that will be focused on creating jobs, strengthening your firms, and also advancing our industries. And with that as well is also protecting our industries as well. And it does not mean that you need to be focusing more on protection. You need to be focusing on unleashing the energy and the capability of your industries, of your firms. Now, the issue of export taxation is utilized by a number of countries in the world, and some use it to good effect. Now, for instance, you quote our chrome industry. Our chrome industry is a case in point, where yes, our energy costs have been at a high level, and to a point where a number of our foundries and smelters have been closing down because their competitiveness is becoming more and more diminished. And you therefore need to utilize various measures. And you don't need to be unidimensional. You need to utilize the measures that you believe can have greater effect and be able to increase the capability of your firms. And the export tax that has been mooted is one of those measures. And at the same time, we want those companies to look at how best they can address the issue of their electricity costs. And they can address it in a variety of ways, particularly in the era where we are in the renewable energy type of era, and where their energy costs can be much more reduced. But at the same time, we also need to think about the jobs of South Africans, and find a way of protecting those jobs and ensuring that we enhance those jobs. And by so doing, we want manufacturing to be based here in the country. Other countries, for instance, use tariffs, and tariffs are taxes. And other countries will use export taxation, and other countries will use a variety of incentives. So a combination of all these measures, if one picks one or the other, can actually lead to greater success. And that is precisely what is now being done, to look at how we protect our industries and how we advance the job creation process. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable President. Before we could proceed to the next follow-up question, can we kindly acknowledge the presence of Honourable Mabibo's family in the gallery? With us, we've got Mary Mabibo, Tirisano Mabibo, Hope Mitzileng, Lorraine Munareng, as well as Dinah Nkele. Can we acknowledge their presence? Thank you very much, and thank you for gracing this session today. We really appreciate it. We are now proceeding to Honorable Gerike.
Thank you, Chairperson and Mr. President. The country's textile industry has over the years continued to struggle despite your efforts to revive it. South Africa's textile industry has but collapsed as it faces massive factory shutdowns, mass job cuts, and reduced local capacity due to cheap imports. This despite the existence of local innovations. We were therefore concerned to learn, Mr. President, of Mr. Gayton McKenzie's recent meeting with Shein in Singapore. And we are particularly concerned that poorly managed partnerships with major foreign firms could worsen the situation, particularly for local designers who already struggle to access markets and support. Given that Shein is a global corporation with a significant impact on local textile and apparel industries worldwide, what did Mr. Gayton tell you regarding agreements or commitments made with Shein? And what recent steps of intervention have you taken, Mr. President, to ensure that South Africa's manufacturing industry is not weakened by uncoordinated ministerial engagements? Thank you, sir.
Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The process of reaching agreements with other players in the world is well coordinated through Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. And whatever agreements are arrived at are properly considered and properly synthesized by the department as well as by cabinet. And in doing all this, we ensure that all government departments work in an integrated fashion. So there is no government department that will just hive off on its own and go and reach agreements that are not known by others. And of course, all of us in government are entitled to meet whoever we can encounter in the world. And as we do so, whatever proposals are put forward are brought to government to consider, and agreements that are possible to be reached are properly discussed. So in this case in point, I would say that Minister McKenzie has not yet reported to me about this particular issue. And whatever the intentions of the counterpart in another country would be, has to be properly discussed and properly evaluated by government on an integrated basis before any agreement is reached. Now, our main focus is to protect South African jobs. Our main focus, particularly in the clothing and textile industry, which we have focused clear attention on. We've reached a master agreement with a various number of players, and we put in place incentives to protect those jobs and to revive that industry. And yes, not only ourselves as South Africa, but many countries continue to face pressure from cheaper products that seep into their markets. And in the end, we have to take measures to protect our jobs, to protect our industries. Steps that we have taken in the past and we will continue to take to ensure that we do protect South African jobs. So I will pay attention to what you have said and get some answers as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The last supplementary question is from Honorable van den Berg.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Mr. President, as you surely know, the Freedom Front Plus is very critical of discriminative policies such as affirmative action, cadre deployment, and tenders, looting the state, causing infrastructure collapse and the creation of a new connected elite. In order to get economic zones to work and lead to the revival of local industries to flourish, are you, Mr. President, willing to A, reform these policies, and B, reimagine the special economic zone model to focus more closely on productive micro-entrepreneurial owned production units, able to employ thousands of people, producing towards the same identical products, and then to market these products through state-supported networks to guarantee stable markets and feasible demand for these products? And if so, when can we meet with you with some progressive plans? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Honourable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. My quick and clear answer on the latter part of your question is we can meet at any time. I'd like to hear what you term progressive plans, because we want to pursue progressive policies. And I hope you do know what progressive means. It's not just an English term. Loaded in that word means transformational policies that work to the interests of everyone, not only to the sectional interests of certain groups. Now, you ask a question, are we prepared to reconsider our policies? Our policies are based on our Constitution. Constitution says we must foster equality. And fostering equality means that we must correct the imbalances of the past. Now, I always get surprised when people raise the issue of employment equity, Black economic empowerment, and so forth. And those people are denialists of what happened in the past. We had apartheid here, and apartheid policies were policies that were directed at empowering one group of South Africans against another. In fact, it was worse than that. It was configured in a way where one group had to be upgraded while the other one was suppressed. For instance, I was a general secretary in the mining industry, of the National Union of Mine Workers. White workers were allowed to have blasting certificates. And so they had certificates that said you are miners, and your salary was therefore quite high. Black workers who did exactly the same job were prevented from getting a blasting certificate because the law said only white workers may have a blasting certificate and black workers could not. Now, what we are seeking to do is to equalize, to ensure that those who were prevented from getting those opportunities are upgraded. Now, I often hear the complaint about employment equity. Those people forget what happened in the past. I know for a fact, because I was a general secretary in the mining industry, Black workers could not even be boilermakers. They could not even be the skilled workers who could work in an industrial complex like the mining industry. They were always relegated to the lower level of jobs. And yet they were doing more or less exactly the same type of work as white workers. I know it because we fought against it. We even came to the apartheid parliament then to come and argue for the law to be scrapped. Now, that was employment empowerment for white workers. Now, I get surprised when many people then say, no, you may not do that. And yet it was done in the past. And yet what we are saying now is that let's equalize. Let's bring those who were prevented from getting those positions to be taken to the level where they can actually also reap the benefits of economic development. That is precisely what we are seeking to do. And with the economic zones, they are also meant to promote precisely that. They are meant to ensure that there's an inclusive economy that we build, which will include everyone. The apartheid economy only favored white people. It did not favor black people. Now, the Constitution is very clear. And I'd like us to meet, yes, but I also want us to discuss our constitutional principles. So you're welcome. Let's discuss your progressive ideas and underline progressive as well as the constitutional principles that inform employment equity, that inform Black economic empowerment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable President. We are now proceeding to question 10. I'm told that Honourable Mampuru will be replacing Honourable Kisini in this regard. The question, Honourable President, is with regards to the railway stations as well as the commuter rail services. I'm now affording an opportunity to respond to the question.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The government, through PRASA, has embarked on a comprehensive recovery and modernization plan for our country's commuter rail services, which had previously deteriorated due to infrastructure neglect, due to vandalism, due to operational failures, as well as corruption. This includes upgrading the signaling and telecommunication system of the metro rail network to restore core rail functions. This will enable higher frequency services and safer and more reliable operations. There has been substantial capital investment over recent years on rolling stock acquisition, as well as the recovery in infrastructure. Plans are underway to restore as well as to optimize recovered service lines, to reintroduce signaling. The infrastructure-led recovery program is expected to create a number of jobs through direct and indirect induced efforts. The full recovery of PRASA commuter rail services is projected to add a sum of 34 billion rand to South Africa's GDP annually. This recovery also supports a number of jobs each year and injects over 15 billion into the economies or the incomes of households. And beyond quantifiable economic benefits, the project will improve safety, it will also reduce travel costs, it will promote social welfare by restoring dignity and reliable transport access to many of our people. PRASA has made significant progress, recovering a number of lines, up to 35 lines, over the past 3 years. It aims to achieve up to 120 million passenger trips in the current year, which it hopes will more than double over the medium-term expenditure framework period. In summary, the government's revival plan includes significant capital investments as well as operational reforms. And this will yield substantial benefits, particularly when it comes to job creation as well as economic growth. Now, this is work that is underway, and many of our people are beginning to see real progress in this regard. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable President. I now afford Honourable Mampuru to ask a follow-up question.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings again, President. Just to follow up on your response, then my follow-up question will be, which entities and departments are responsible for this rail revival plan? Thank you.
Over to you, Honourable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The Department of Transport, as well as PRASA, as an entity, are the lead players. But at the same time, there are quite a number of other supportive departments in all this. you can call it the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, as well as Environment also gets involved, because there's the issue of environment that is involved in this. The Department of Energy and Electricity are also involved, because there's electricity that drives our trains, and the various other departments also participate in all this. But the lead department really is the Department of Transport, and the entity is the department, is PRASA, and a number of other sub-entities that are also administered by the Department of Transport. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. The next follow-up question shall be asked by Honorable Mabibo.
It's even implicit.
Oh, sorry. I always confuse Honorable Mabilo and Mabibo, President. So, yes. So, my apology for that. Honorable Mabilo is not here, and he has since requested Honorable Lekwase to represent her on this question.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good day, Honorable President. Mr. President, for generations, railway have been a critical pathway of African trade and mobility. During our Transport Month debate last week, all parties expressed shared sentiments to move with greater urgency to restore the rail network in our country. We said this because trains connect mines to ports, they connect farms to markets, and the people to opportunities. This question comes because of the statement you made on the capital investment that you have mentioned, Honorable President. There are mechanisms to ensure that this process also creates employment and economic opportunities for the youth and other previously marginalized sectors of our society, such as women, particularly the rural women who have been adversely affected by a collapse of the rail network in the rural towns. Can you please elaborate and inform us on your capital investment?
Thank you very much. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. As I said earlier, capital investment is one area that we're focusing on, and we knew, as we now know, that in order to increase the capability of our rail lines, we do need investment. We need investment, yes, from PRASA itself as the passenger rail agency, but government also needs to play a key role. So does the private sector also need to play a key role. But in this regard, we have already recovered up to 35 lines that were either dormant or non-functional. And I remember very clearly one time when I traveled on a train from Mabopane to Tshwane, and how our people were rather pleased that we are recovering some of those lines, and we have continued to invest more and more money and reposition even the train stations and purchase the trains or the coaches, which are also made in our own country. So that has called for capital investment. And as I said, we are pouring in up to 34 billion rand through PRASA, and it is also raising money on the capital markets. So the drive for further and more investment continues. And it is through this that we will be able to ensure that many of our people participate in the economy, and the costs of travel are also brought down, and the connectivity amongst our people is enhanced as they will travel a lot easier. And as the train lines were being recovered or revived, many of our people commented that the cost of travel for them has now come down. And previously, it was quite high because of the special architecture of our country that was set in place by apartheid. But the connectivity is assisting them to save more money and to be able to travel safely. And so our investment in that sector of passenger travel or the rail trains or the trains is proceeding, and it will continue to proceed at great speed, because this is the one way in which we can make a meaningful contribution to the revival of our economy. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The next follow-up question is from Honorable Skier Kochel. He will be asking the question through the virtual platform. Over to you, Honorable Kochel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Mr. President, on the 12th of September 2024, you spoke to the rail issues of our country and its suffering. And more than a year later, we are here again. This time, however, the World Bank indicated that low-income South Africans spend 51 to nearly 60% of their net wages on transport, which rail directly impacts because it's the cheapest form of daily transport. Passenger trips have collapsed from 500 million in 2010 to 77 million in 2024-2025. Trains are forced to run only every 50 minutes instead of every 6 minutes during rush hour, due to insufficient signaling, which forces drivers to communicate via cell phones due to corrupt signaling contract looting billions. Mr. President, South Africans are tired of lip service and not having a functioning, safe, and reliable, efficient rail service that all South Africans can be proud to use. Is it not time to devolve rail functions to capable and competent provinces and municipalities? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Over to you, Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I did say that we are seeing a great deal of improvement in our rail transport process, improvement from what it was a few years ago, where there was deterioration, where there was incapacity, and where there was a lack of investment, and also where there was corruption. And all those issues are being addressed, and we see the result of all this in the recovery of our rail lines and passenger lines that are now being repositioned, recovered, leading to more and more of our people utilizing the trains. And indeed, as they utilize our trains, their cost of travel is coming down. And we want that cost of travel to come down more and more, because the expenditure level of up to 40%, even more, of people's income on transport is clearly unacceptable and not sustainable. So therefore, we want to see the costs of travel coming down. Hence, as the Government of National Unity, we'll focus our attention also on reducing the cost of living. And in doing so, we're looking at various measures. And as we are seeing greater and greater improvement in our rail lines, yes, there's been the suggestion that some of the rail lines should be operated at a more localized level. And that too is a matter that is being given attention to. And the architecture of, for instance, considering that has to be looked at. But as it is now, with PRASA becoming more and more efficient and more effective, we are looking at a great improvement. And of course, the apartheid special architecture is the one that debilitates our ability to be able to reduce the costs of travel of our people as we would want it. But we are dealing with those problems as we are dealing with the efficiency that needs to be put in place for our commuter rail services to operate at the level which will enable our people to travel much cheaper and much more efficiently. For instance, when it comes to trains that will travel regularly, that is a process that is now beginning to unfold. So we are making progress, and we will continue to make progress. That is a commitment that we are making as we are rebuilding our state-owned enterprises. And PRASA was one of those that had been captured in the state capture era, and we are now recovering its own efficiency and capability. And we will continue to do so as it rebuilds more and more passenger rail lines. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The last follow-up question is from Honorable Peter, who's also on the virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, Honorable President. Honorable President, Honorable President, our economy remains heavily dependent on a few strategic corridors, particularly the Durban-Gauteng route, which carries most containerized goods. Yet, despite the National Development Plan 2012 vision to achieve a 50-50 balance between road and rail by 2030, the reality today tells a story that rail's share has fallen even lower than it was when the NDP was drawn up. Honorable President, in restoring progress towards the NDP 50-50 road to rail target, how does government plan to achieve this balance in a way that strengthens both sectors with a clear step-by-step strategy that can be measured in time frames, milestones, and outcomes? As the state explore approving performance-based standard tracks, has government considered how such measures will coexist with the revival of a rail without worsening the imbalance? I thank you, President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Peter. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Peter is absolutely right. Our target is set out in the National Development Plan, and ensuring that we have a balance between road, transportation, and rail is precisely where we want to go. And for that reason, or to that objective, we are strengthening Transnet, as we are strengthening PRASA as well. And the two entities are focused on ensuring that we bring back our rail capability, both for passenger transport as well as for goods and other products transportation. Transnet is involved in a massive investment program, but also a massive transformation program, which is leading it to see how best it can crowd in the private sector to run certain lines that will be given to the private sector on a concessional basis. For instance, there are certain lines that focus on coal, certain lines that focus on iron ore, manganese, and other products, and even vegetables or agricultural produce, as well as our automotive sector. And all that is being addressed through the process that we have introduced as part of Vulindlela, and we are enjoying or having a great deal of cooperation between the state, that is the government, as well as the private sector and labor. And all these efforts are leading to ensuring that there is better performance from Transnet. And as we are talking about better performance from PRASA, we are seeing a combination of both these entities that deal with rail transportation beginning to operate at a much better level than they have in the past. So the balance, the 50-50 balance, is something that we aim to achieve as set out in the National Development Plan. So we are taking proactive measures in both areas, both goods transportation as well as commuter transportation. And the progress that is being made is actually making a good contribution and will continue to make a good contribution to the economic growth of our country. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We are now proceeding to the second last question, which is question number 11. It has been asked by Honorable Mokoene. The question is about the new dawn build on integrity, accountability, and renewal. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. In the State of the Nation address on the 15th of February in 2018, I said we were determined to build a society defined by decency and integrity. I said that as South Africans, we had to seize the moment of hope and renewal and to work together to ensure meaningful difference in the lives of our people. The honorable member may recall where the country was at that time. The institutions of our state had been captured by criminal interests. People had been placed within our most critical institutions for the sole purpose of redirecting public funds towards the enrichment of a corrupt few. Those were the state capture years. The extent and depth of this criminal conduct was laid bare before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. The impact of state capture extended far beyond the loss of billions of rands of public funds. It contributed to a decline in investor confidence in our country. It rendered companies such as Eskom and Transnet unable to meet their responsibilities to produce electricity and efficiently transport goods. It undermined the ability of the state to also collect revenue through SARS and hindered the police to do their work effectively. The NPA and other law enforcement agencies were also hindered from acting against criminals. The tasks that we have had is to undo that legacy, to undo that past, and to stop state capture. First, we acted decisively, yes, to end state capture. We started rebuilding institutions such as SARS, which had been captured, which had been diverted from doing the proper tax collection job that it is committed to doing. We started rebuilding various organizations or institutions like the NPA, the Hawks, and state security agencies, ensuring that credible people were appointed to head these bodies. Over the last few years, these agencies have made significant progress in prosecuting many of those allegedly responsible for state capture, but more importantly also in recovering billions of rands in stolen funds. The work to tackle corruption is gaining momentum with each passing day. Much as the reports can look horrible and gory, but it also means that progress is being made because all those deeds are being uncovered. We have seen progress in other areas as well. The capture, corruption, and mismanagement at Eskom prior to 2018 laid bare the most severe and sustained acts that were being perpetrated. But it also impacted on a period of load shedding in our history. Through hard work, commitment, and focus, we have turned that situation around. In the 2025 financial year, for example, the country experienced load shedding on just 13 days, down from 329 days the year before. So you can see the massive improvement that has ensued. We have seen similar recoveries in entities like Transnet, PRASA, SAA, and SARS, where the institutions have been stabilized and there is a clear and steady improvement of their performance. And some of them are already beginning to turn out a profit from their operations. But while there is progress Honorable Chairperson, there is still much to be done. Not only do we need to rebuild all these institutions in the wake of the era of state capture and undo the persistent legacy of apartheid and colonialism, but we also had to contend with the devastating economic impact of COVID, the catastrophic floods that we had, and the civil unrest of July 2021. This is why this government is at one on the actions we must take to drive faster and inclusive economic growth and job creation. We have a clear program to tackle poverty and the high cost of living and to build a capable state, but more particularly at local government level as well. Now, Honorable Chair, across all three spheres of government, we are seeing fundamental progress that will ultimately transform our country and the lives of our people. We are going through, yes, a challenging and difficult period right now. But what we have been doing and succeeding in doing is to strengthen our various institutions and our various entities. And that is a guarantee that we will continue to see improvement, even as we face challenges right now. So progress is being made, and we are moving forward, much as people may think that there are too many challenges. Progress is being made in a number of areas, and we must never lose hope. We must forever be looking forward and doing everything we can, because there is no other way than to move forward and to correct the things that are not going right. So thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. I'll now afford Honorable Mokoena an opportunity to ask a follow-up question.
Thank you, Chairperson. With due respect, Mr. President, I was not entirely satisfied with the answer that I got from that question. It's not entirely your fault, and for the record, Chairperson, I must inform this House that my question was altered without my consent, stripping it as if it's very political and ethical substance that I wanted it lodged. President, the question was about your legacy, not anyone else's. Because the real state capture is happening right now under your watch. Mr. President, South Africans are confronted daily with the evidence contrary to anything that comes out of your office and out of your statements. So if integrity is truly the foundation of your leadership, then transparency should not be a threat to you. Would you then submit yourself to a publicly broadcasted lie detector test to prove to this nation that everything you've said today and in all your presidential speeches is indeed truthful in all aspects? Thank you.
You may respond, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I don't know how a public lie detector test works. And maybe the honorable member can enlighten me on that after this session so that I can evaluate precisely what she's saying. What I have been saying and what we have been making all efforts in turning around our country from the era of state capture is there for everyone to see. And you look at quite a number of institutions that had been captured and almost been devastated. We have turned them around. And some people often talk about SARS, the way that the outstanding tax collection entity that should operate at the top of its capability had been weakened and had actually been completely captured. How we've been able to turn that around so that it is able to collect the revenue that will fund the developmental needs of South Africans, and a number of other institutions that are there for everyone to see. Transnet is another one, and many others that I've referred to. So I guess in the end, people need to look at that and see how many of these are being turned around. And of course, people choose not to see where progress is being made and always focus on the darker side. And yet, there are a number of areas where institutions of our country are being revived, where they are being repositioned, and I've named just a few. And I do think progress is being made on that. And in the end, it's not only about my legacy. And I focus more on the work that needs to be done, and not so much on what my legacy will be. In the end, it is our collective legacy as the people who lead this country, precisely where you are also sitting, as a lawmaker. Because as you sit here, you are policymakers, you are lawmakers. We are all meant to turn this country around. So we don't have the opportunity to absolve ourselves. And I will take the blame for everything wrong that's happening in South Africa. I will take responsibility for that. But what I say is that let all of us take up our responsibility to reposition this country wherever we are, lawmakers, business people, and members of the cabinet, local level, provincial level, and all over. We have a responsibilities. We are all leaders, and therefore we must take our responsibility seriously rather than to point fingers. So where we can bring about a change, let us do so. And that is what I call on you as well to take up that. But let's talk about this public lie detector test, which I hope you will also agree to be subjected to if it works. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We're now proceeding to Honorable Mabilo.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, Honorable President.
Good afternoon.
Mr. President, let me take this opportunity to express my profound appreciation for your role in laying the foundation for a democratic South Africa and also providing much needed leadership that restored the integrity of our nation from unscrupulous looters who were so determined to capture our country for their benefits and for the benefit of their families and friends. While South Africa faces a number of challenges, your resolute leadership in turning the tide against corruption in our public institution, in line with your resolute pledge for a new dawn for South Africa. Mr. President, my question is, in line with the commitment that you made in 2018 to improve business confidence and attract more foreign investment to our country, is South Africa making progress in attracting foreign investment and advancing global connectivity in the face of persisting geopolitical and geo-economic challenges like this US tariff? Thanks, President. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mabilo. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We are making tremendous progress in making South Africa an investable destination. Our foreign direct investment had tapered down quite significantly. And the confidence, the business confidence within our own borders had also gone down. And we have taken steps to work with those who make our economy work, the private sector, and indeed also labor. And we've received great cooperation from them. And as it is now, we are involved in very effective collaborative processes with the private sector in addressing some of the challenges that we face in energy, in logistics, and a whole number of areas, including how we can fight corruption. And that in itself is something that should be seen as being positive. We've often said that we need to have a social compact. And having spoken about a social compact in the past, we realized that we needed to give it more content. We needed to give it more meaning. We needed to give it more substance. And the substance that this social compact evolution now has is the real issues that we are working on. And even as we go around globally, when we speak about how we are cooperating with the private sector and labor and repositioning and social society, civil society rather, in repositioning our country, we are greatly admired to a point where wherever we go, when I go on state visits, we often meet business people, foreign investors who want to come and invest in our country. And recently we went to Japan and we met a number of companies that have either invested here and want to invest here who have said they are seeing a great deal of progress in South Africa. The same thing happened in the United States. We've just come back, as I said, from Europe, where the European Union, which consists of some 27 countries, is collectively saying, we want to come and invest in South Africa, and they're deploying almost 12 billion euros, which amounts to about 340 billion South African rands. Now, they would not do so if they didn't see South Africa as an investable country. They are doing so because they can see that South Africa is increasing in enhancing business confidence, and they are finding great opportunities in our country and are demonstrating that by wanting to pour more and more money. Next year, we are going to have our investment conference where we are actually saying we want to attract 2 trillion rand to be invested in our country. And I do believe that we will be successful. I will be traveling to a number of countries in the coming weeks. I'll be traveling to Malaysia, to Vietnam, to Indonesia, to Switzerland, and all this is aimed at attracting more and more investments in our country. I'll be traveling to African countries as well, also advocating for South Africa as the gateway into our continent, where companies can come and set up operations so that we work together with our sister countries on the African continent to enhance our economic growth. So a great deal is being done, and we are moving ahead in making South Africa an attractive investment destination. And we will not stop now. We will continue going forward. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. The next follow-up question is from Honorable Pina.
Thank you, Chairperson. Goeiemiddag, achtbare President.
Goeiemiddag.
Mr. President, speaking of integrity and accountability, the Deputy President you appointed has been found guilty by Parliament's Ethics Committee for failing to declare a diamond as a gift. Yet, you have taken no public action to reprimand him for his unethical behavior. When can South Africans expect you to hold your Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, accountable? Thank you, President. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile presented a report about this diamond, and I don't know what type of diamond it was. And he presented what I thought was a story that was understandable, but it was supposed also to be carried forward in the parliamentary process, and I don't know where that is now. So there has been an explanation which he has given on that and on how it came about for this gift of a diamond to be given either to his wife or so. So that explanation has been given. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The last follow-up question on this question is from Honorable Mundwedi.
Eskil, ke a leboga modulasetilo Madume monaya ditaelo mogolo wa naga. President, a month ago, you visited the province of the Northwest, and in your own words, you said there is a trust deficit between government and communities because government has failed in a number of occasions to deliver basic services as expected for our people. And your premier in the Northwest, in that very same meeting, admitted and said that there has been a state of paralysis and disunity in the province, both in government and in the ANC, hence the collapse of service delivery. Now, President, national government intervened in the Ditsobotla local municipality. The intervention is welcomed. However, there's a bit of a concern because in terms of your very own constitution, the intervention should actually be led by the Minister of Finance, not the Minister of COGTA, as it is currently happening, which may be a challenge there. Now, the Provincial Treasury President in the Northwest has been tasked with the responsibility of supporting ailing municipalities through these interventions in municipalities, and the situation has not changed. It's actually getting worse. Now, I want to ask you, President, to say, is your intervention a vote of no confidence in the Provincial Treasury's efforts to support ailing municipalities in the Northwest because your intervention was a last resort because the Provincial Treasury has failed to support municipalities and to intervene? And don't you think perhaps that team that deals with interventions that is located in the Provincial Treasury should be elevated to a higher office with coordinating authority over other departments, because Treasury may be struggling because they deal with the financial component. There are other components that Treasury may be struggling with in terms of being able to deal with some of those issues. And maybe just out of interest, President, what have you done to deal with the paralysis and the disunity that was said by your very own premier? Because that paralysis has continued to rob the people of the Northwest their basic services that they deserve to be getting by this recycled leadership that is still there. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mundwedi. Over to you, Honorable President.
Well, the straight question is, what have we done? And I did elaborate earlier that in the second phase of our reform process at national level, through the Vulindlela process, which is led by the presidency and also Treasury, we have decided to focus on local government. And that focus involves various government departments, including COGTA and Treasury. Now, we are seeing quite a lot of progress in Ditsobotla. Ditsobotla, through the intervention of our Minister of Cooperative Governance, is now functioning a lot better than it was in the past. And that is happening due to the fact that we have ensured that national government does intervene and does keep our people at local government level on the spotlight. And they now know that national government can come through a number of interventions. Some of those will come through the Treasury, and some of those would come through COCTA, and the intergovernmental initiative that we have introduced through either the presidential working group process, which will make interventions, through a coordinated and integrated process, is something that is being well recognized and being seen as an enabler to enhance the improvement in our local government space. And I do believe that through this, we enhance intergovernmental cooperation and collaboration to solve the problems such as those that obtain in Ditsobotla, so that the paralysis that you are talking about comes to an end. And the paralysis is given rise because either of either inter-party contestations, incapability of being able to govern properly at local government level, and also budgetary challenges that a number of our municipalities have, because some of them just don't have enough revenue to be able to enhance service delivery. And that is why Treasury then gets involved to give support and to assist those municipalities. So the combination of various efforts and interventions does lead to really good outcomes, as we are now beginning to see in some areas in Northwest. And I do believe that we're going to see more and more of that. Our intervention as the government of national unity to enhance state capability is something that needs to be noted, because it is a priority that we have committed ourselves to, and it is a priority that we are trying and doing everything to put in place. So, Honorable Chairperson, we are making progress in that regard as well. And I'm sure that we will continue to reposition our local government entities, including in the Northwest, and indeed in a number of other provinces as well. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We are now proceeding to our last question, which is question number 12, asked by Honorable Finis. The question is about the atrocities in Gaza.
Honorable Chairperson, as we all know, South Africa instituted proceedings at the International Court of Justice, arguing that Israel is violating its obligations under the Genocide Convention. The court has ordered provisional measures against Israel on 3 separate occasions, which Israel continues to violate. These proceedings are ongoing, and Israel is due to deliver its counter memorial, which is a response to what we launched. They are supposed to present this in January in 2026. The court will thereafter set the dates for the merits of the case to be heard. As the International Court of Justice is fully seized with this matter, South Africa, as a party to the proceedings, cannot compel the court to rule expeditiously because it has to follow its own processes. Several international processes are also underway to end the unlawful conduct in Gaza, to ensure that there will be no impunity for the atrocities that have been executed there against the people of Palestine. These processes are taking place at the United Nations through the Hague Group, which is a global bloc of states committed to defend international law and act in solidarity with the people of Palestine. We welcome the first phase of a peace plan between Israel and Hamas, which was announced yesterday, including the ceasefire and the release of hostages and political prisoners. These, we believe, are steps which we have consistently called for. The peace deal, in the end, must lay the basis for an inclusive process that outlines a clear path of an independent and viable Palestinian state existing in peace alongside a secure and peaceful Israel. The government of South Africa remains resolutely committed to using every available legal and diplomatic avenue to protect the people of Palestine and to uphold the rule of law. And in this regard, we participated in the United Nations General Assembly a few weeks ago, where more than 142 countries declared that they recognize the state of Palestine. This, we believe, was a significant step that has been applauded across the world, and we do believe that the peace deal that has now been struck will, in the end, see to it that the freedom of the people of Palestine and their sovereignty and self-determination is finally given to them. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Honorable Finis.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon, Honorable President. Honorable President, I want to appreciate for leading our country to champion a principled position on the atrocities committed by Israel in Gaza that claimed the lives of thousands of innocent women and children and resulted in worse atrocities committed by a state in recent years. From my side, I just want to know, does this peace deal have any bearing on South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice? And how will South Africa use its influence to pursue a long-term vision for the people of Palestine? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Finis. Over to you, Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, the peace deal that has been struck, which we welcome, will have no bearing on the case that is before the International Court of Justice. As I said, the case is proceeding, and it now has to go to the stage where Israel has to respond to our pleadings that have been filed in the court, and they have to do so by January of next year. Whereafter, the International Court of Justice will set a date for the evidence to be presented and tabled. And that is when the whole process will see continuation. Whilst we welcome the peace deal, we do believe that in the end, real justice must be done to the people of Palestine. We cannot go forward without the healing that needs to take place, that will also result from the case that has been launched being properly heard. And we therefore leave it up to the court to make a determination on the basis of what has been happening against the people of Palestine, where more than 67,000 people have been killed, and where we have seen the continued destruction and the bombing. But we welcome the peace deal, and we welcome the release of the hostages, and we also welcome the release of the prisoners. That, we believe, is a very good confidence-building measure that should enhance the ceasefire and finally lead to the self-determination process for the people of Palestine, with Palestine as an independent state living side by side with Israel, and both people enjoying their self-determination and their sovereignty. That is what we hope for, and indeed, in our view, that is what international rule of law requires and demands. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. We're now proceeding to Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon.
In 2016, when you were Deputy President, the ANC government expressed its desire to withdraw from the ICC. The following year, the ICC ruled against South Africa for failing to arrest then war criminal Omar al-Bashir when he was passing through our country. Your government has also given no commitment to arrest ICC-accused Russian President Vladimir Putin should he attend a BRICS summit in South Africa. Mr. President, how can you expect other nations to uphold international courts' arrest warrants or court orders stemming from South Africa's ICJ case when our own country applies such rulings selectively? Thank you.
Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. President Vladimir Putin did not come to the BRICS summit, and there was therefore no real need for South Africa to do anything. And former President Bashir also left the country. And we've always said that we will adhere to international law principles, and we will do what is required in terms of international law. But at the same time, we've seen big other countries violating international law. We are a small country of just 62 million people, and we are bound together by the precepts of our Constitution and the precepts of international law justice. But we've stood by and watched many other countries just violating international law. But we will continue to act in accordance with our principles and our values. And that is what actually makes South Africa be what it is. And we are grateful for that, much as at times it is done at great sacrifice. But we will stand by those principles that we have adopted. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President, for the response. We are proceeding to Honorable Gerike.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. President, the EFF is not very optimistic about the peace deal, simply because it's two friends that were shaking hands together and achieving their own goals on that side of the world. The same happened with the Trump intervention in the DRC, and not long after that, we received reports that the war is back to square one in the DRC. Now, Mr. President, the Israeli war against the people of Palestine is meant to serve the interest of a bloodthirsty few that have no regard for the basic human rights of the people of Gaza and surrounds. It cannot be accepted as normal. Here at home, the sixth administration of our parliament passed a resolution which was sponsored by the EFF, demanding the reconsideration of diplomatic ties with Israel and the closure of the Israeli embassy in South Africa. Yet, to date, this resolution has not been implemented. How far are you with the process, and why has the resolution not been executed, Mr. President? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gerike. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I have in the past said that as government, we do take the decisions of this parliament quite seriously, and we do give consideration to what is decided here. And in doing so, we need to look at how we balance the various interventions with other interventions that we need to make as government. And as government, as we proceed, we know that we act on behalf of the people of South Africa, as Parliament does. And in doing so, we need to weigh up precisely how everything should pan out. And that resolution has been noted, as I have said in the past, and we will continue to proceed to see how best we balance. South Africa has taken decisive action, real decisive action, in advocating the rights of the people of Palestine. And in doing so, at times we've done it at great cost to ourselves as a country. And as I said earlier, we are prepared for that. And further actions that can be taken are matters that are always put under consideration, having taken the action that we have. So it does not mean that the decision has been shelved and is not being given consideration. It continues to be given consideration, as other actions as well that can end up in the interests of advancing or in the processes that will advance the interests of the people of Palestine. So thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Very much, Honorable President. We are now moving to our last speaker, Honorable van den Berg.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. President, yesterday the Gaza war ended when the Israeli prisoners were returned after over 700 days. The question is if the people of Palestine and Israel are going to embrace the future and work together towards creating a better Middle East, or if they will, like us in South Africa, keep to unprogressive, and I refer to the word progressive as in the Oxford Dictionary, unprogressive debates of the past wrongs, while the future and opportunities to build and prosper is passing them by. What do you think, Mr. President, they should do?
Over to you, Honorable President.
Well, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It's not up to us to tell the people of Palestine what they should do. And like we were never told to do what other people said, we did what our people wanted. So they must also do what their people say and want. And we will support them in whatever actions they believe is correct for their country. And that is how respectful we are of other nations. And please don't divert us from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was the last question of the day. You may take your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable President, we would like to take this opportunity and thank you for making time, as always, to come and account in this August House. We really appreciate your efforts, and you are doing that so effortlessly. That then is indicative of your commitment in leading the executive, the cabinet of the Republic of South Africa. We really appreciate that. That being said, honorable delegates, we take this opportunity to thank you as well as the special delegates who have joined in through the visual platform for being part of this session, particularly the premiers that have joined in, as well as the MECs of our provinces, the speakers, the deputy speakers, and the chief whip. That then brings us to the end of the day. We really appreciate your commitment. Thank you very much. The House is adjourned.
Recording stopped.